Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Stupefying Superpowers of the Animal Kingdom, presented by NatHab Expedition leaders Arpita Dutta and Payal Mehta. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Over to you, Payal.
Thank you, Rob. So, hello everyone. Thank you again for being here. And to introduce today's topic to you, it was quite a tongue twister. Rob did a fantastic job of saying it. Stupefying superpowers of the animal kingdom. I will let my colleague Arpita do the quick short introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rob, and thank you everyone for tuning today. And thank you so much, Payal, for being with me all the time with my crazy ideas. So superpowers, like we always, in it, because we all grow with the superpowers like Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Captain America. I mean, all these huge, models in front of us that this is how it should be. And when we were young, we don't have like the television, like we don't used to see any virtual things. It's all on the copy, right, in the book. And there used to, do you remember, Payal? There used to be blob-like thing, kaboom, doom, dam. I mean, all this thing, and you know that your superhero is winning the match. And yes, this is what's happening. So that is there, but that's like all, I mean, our stories, we were imagining and everything. But in real life, we all have some superpowers. Maybe not to, go ahead with it, but I think we do believe. Okay, my superpower is I can sleep anywhere in the world. I mean, any small place is required and I can sleep there. I don't have any problem on it. So with that, but in the real world, our world we are sharing with, we are living with, they actually have it. I mean, it's not imagination. It's everything happens in front of us, and they have reason behind it. Maybe it's environment, maybe there's social structure, maybe the condition they are living in. They are adopting so many things that they are revealing the power which can't even, we imagine of. Isn't it, Payal?
Absolutely. And without much further ado, I think let's jump into our first, maybe we should start calling them superheroes.
Yes.
Before I go to our first superhero, a superhero is a mimic artist. But mimicry in nature is nothing unusual. It's actually a rather common phenomenon, right? Like, look at this example here. What you see here in this corner is the egg fly male. And this is what its female looks like, right? She looks like this because the female egg fly is mimicking another impalatable, a toxic butterfly called the tiger, right? It looks a lot like your monarch butterfly in the US. But just like the monarch butterfly, even the tiger is impalatable, it has toxins, and so the female has just mimicked its colors. When she comes out of the pupa, she actually looks like this, like the mimic of the plain tiger. Similarly, we have some creatures who mimic the environment, like this moss mantis here. Look how beautiful it is. Every part of it tells you that it is born to live and hide in mossy, wet areas, right? So sometimes it's for toxins, sometimes sometimes it's to look impalatable, sometimes it's to hide. But these two examples are creatures who are born like that, but then there are some who change colors, right? So here you have an example of the brilliant agama from the deserts of India, where when it wants to show off, the male gets these colors, a bright blue and a bright yellow tail. And when it doesn't, literally within seconds, it can turn to a dull brown color which makes it blend absolutely perfectly in its surroundings. So these are just a few examples. Our first superhero today belongs to the group of octopus. Now again you will say, oh, I know of many octopus who have fantastic camouflage. Yes, they do, it's true. And not only do they camouflage in color, but also texture. And what makes these creatures do that is a group of cells under the layer of their skin, right? So under the epidermis, they have a group of cells, various kinds of cells, some with pigments, some with such crystal structures, and using all these cells, they can expand and contract these cells under their skin to make them give the most perfect camouflage. I mean, look at this here. If it was not for the eye, we would have totally missed this, no? Similarly, over here, you have another octopus. Look at this here, right? So this is how amazing these octopus are. Now, bringing to you a superhero, the mimic octopus. The mimic octopus takes this whole mimicry to a crazy level, right? So let's learn a little bit about it. This mimic octopus likes to live in sandy, shallow marine conditions, right? It sticks to the ground like this. Look at it. And it's extremely well camouflaged. I mean, this is a really zoomed in picture and we can see it clearly, but it can blend in really, really well. It is a carnivore. It feeds on small fish and little crustaceans around there, right on the seafloor. It is found in throughout a wide region of the coastline of the Indo-Pacific area, you know, all the way from India, Indonesia, and also the Great Barrier Reef near Australia. During the day, it lives on the surface like I showed you, and at night, it goes and lives inside burrows. Now, how it goes to a whole new length of mimicry is that not only does it take the color, the shape, and the texture, but it also takes the entire form of other animals, right? And also mimics the way they move. Now, look at this picture here, just for comparison. It's not a great photo, but it shows you. So these are the two what we call the normal forms of the octopus. Look what the octopus has done here. Mimicking a poisonous fish called the flatfish or the soulfish. Over here, it has arranged its tentacles and brought in these stripes to look like the famous, very venomous lionfish. And over here, it is looking like a sea snake, like a banded sea snake. Let's take a closer look. Here, it has folded all its limbs symmetrically behind itself, and it also moves low to the ground like a flatfish. Over here, it has tucked 6 of its 8 legs under its head and kept only 2 out in opposite direction, also mimicking the color and also swaying like a snake. And over here, look what it's done, right? Kept its head in the center and brought its tentacles, the arms out in a pointy, tapering form to look like the poisonous lionfish. All of this to be able to fool its own predator just for a fraction of a second, right? It keeps these things only for a short time before it gets into its octopus mode, and like other octopus can also spray ink and then just swim extremely fast and escape. These are just 3 of maybe 15 different morphs that the octopus can do. For you to understand the movement of its better, we have a little video to show you. Just give me a couple of minutes and you'll get a really good idea at how good this superhero is at what it does.
Unknown by fishermen off the coast of Indonesia in the 1990s. It looked like an octopus, but it could morph its shape in an instant to appear as seemingly any animal around it. At first, no one had any idea what it was.
The first time I saw it, I just was blown away. You couldn't get a more spectacular animal. It really is the pinnacle of wizardry.
Biologist Mark Norman was the first scientist to study this seemingly shapeless creature. He named it the mimic octopus.
The mimic octopus makes itself look like a living, moving animal. So it pulls all its arms around behind its body and swims along like a poisonous flatfish called a banded sole. In other cases, if it's getting attacked, it puts 6 arms down a hole and raises the other 2 arms to look like a poisonous sea snake that has bands along its body. That's not enough. It'll swim along looking like a poisonous lionfish with these banded arms looking like the banded spines that come off these very deadly fish.
So far, 15 separate species are known to be in the mimic octopus act, and Norman is not always sure exactly what the mimic is doing. He observed this mimic scuttling along the sea bottom, looking something like a furry turkey with human legs.
Sometimes it's hard when you watch a mimic octopus doing what it does to interpret what's going on. It's a bit like looking at ink spots in a psychiatrist's office going, I don't know what it is. It could be a piano, it could be a fridge. So you get 3 or 4 divers together and you'll argue all night trying to work out what we think it was mimicking.
Where did nature's greatest actor come from? Unknown until...
Sorry. So with that, I think it's established that the mimic octopus is the superhero of mimicry. We'll have to give it a name, Arpita. But an amazing creature that was discovered only as recently as 1998. Imagine, so common, found, not so common, it's rare, but found across such a wide geographical range and still not found, maybe because of its amazing mimicry.
So true. I mean, after looking at the video, especially how quickly, within a blink, it was changing its color and changing its formation, that's absolutely amazing. And of course, I can say it's a superhero and of course a master of mimicry. But then I have the master of regeneration. I think that's nailed it. I mean, in the whole world, how things are happening. Here I present one salamander called axolotl. And so I would go through a little story about it, like how it all started. So in the year, before that, Payal, can you hear? Thank you. What has happened in normal salamander's life, it's the egg. I mean, after the population, it's egg, then the larva form, then they grow their hind limb and forelimb, and then we have the adult salamander. Either they stay more close to the water or they become terrestrial. This is how things happen. So people knew about it. And in 1860, few salamanders were shipped to Auguste Dumeril, who was a French scientist, prominent French scientist from Mexico. He got his specimen and he of course considered, because it saw the larva with the gills and stuff, which actually a larva has. So he thought that it could be the larva of some unknown salamander. But after like few months, like after 6 months, when he checked his specimen, he found that they have reproduced. Oh gosh, how did that happen? I mean, because we always consider, I mean, in the animal kingdom or with us, that we only can reproduce after we are defined as the sexually matured. But if these are the one who are already matured, but they are still in their neutenic life. I mean, imagine they have a forever young salamander. You know, that they retain the characteristic of their young stage. And that's what exactly happened. And He then kept the salamanders for a few more, like he kept on looking for it. How is it happening? What is happening? And they are not changing. But again, in 1865, after 5 years, few of from the specimen, not the previous one. So he kept on collecting. Again, the few specimen, he found that few salamanders actually grow into a normal salamander without the gills. How generally it does. It made him crazy. But before he could find out the answer, unfortunately, he passed away. But it's science, it's research. People don't stop. Till he has finished, he has given the information. Later on, this information was taken by other group of scientists, and they have found that because the place where axolotl live, especially it's an endemic species of Mexico, the water where they live, there is no predatory fish or there is no predation. There are no, any threat to the species. So water is comfortable. Why do you have to change when you can stay there nicely? But with that, there is an environmental effect. Wherever they were, around that area, it was more drier region. And they don't need to come out. And because it was in the like in a specimen form, and they were kept maybe in some different areas without much water, they have changed completely into a salamander without the gills. So that's amazing about this species. But yes, unless and until they are going through that stress, they remain in their neotenic form. Yes, and after this, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, so this axolotl, we call it master of regeneration. We have seen geckos like wall, which moves in the wall. They release their tail or they just leave their tail to fool the predator. But when they regrow, the coloration or pattern doesn't remain the same. It's more darker in color, but functionally it is same. But in case of axolotl, you can't even make a difference that something has happened. It's a brand new thing, but it seems like in the old form. So how does that happen? If you go to the next slide, yeah, so here, suppose this is where my cursor is, just keep an eye. So suppose this has been amputated or some injury has happened and it just fall off. This remain. So imagine the blood start clotting at the top of this area. And after that, an epithelial cell form a layer on top of it. Once the layer is formed, the old tissues and muscles and everything start, this epithelial cell mostly, they start regrowing rapidly. And while doing that, they form a conical shape like this, a cone shape, which is called the blastema. This is a key to the regeneration. Remember the name, blastema. And from there, it actually regrow exactly how the limb used to look. So this blastema is actually release or have the stem cell, exactly how it used to be when the embryo was forming. You know, that's called the de-differentiation. So imagine the bone cell, the cartilage cell, and the muscle cell. They all look different. But when this blastema forms and get back to the stem cell, every cell lose their identity. And they get back to the stem cell. And they remember the coding when they're young. I mean, imagine when you are in the embryo, like the embryo is forming, they have their coding that this is going to be the arms, this is going to be the arms. Exactly, they follow that, and the limbs are right there without a single scar on it. And with that, it established the pattern and differentiate the limb structure. So over here, we'll have a short video just to see how you can keep it on mute, Payal. Just to, yeah, quickly we will have a look. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just see how it happens. But now you can see that the how limbs grow. I mean, and no matter how many times, it has been already recorded that almost for 15 times it has regrow the limb in the same way, not only once. But on top of that, imagine limbs, tail, fine, that's a parts of the body. What it made the outstanding moment is they can actually repair or regrow the part of their brain. Payal, can you imagine brain? I mean, an animal who can replace the part of the brain, they can do anything. What do you say? I mean, we don't have any control on our brain, and this fellow has it. And Payal, you know that we are born with a certain number of neurons, right?
Yeah.
And that cannot be changed, or that cannot be, you know, I mean, even if anything happens, that is damaged. We cannot repair it. But in case of axolotl, they produce neuron throughout the entire life. So anything happens in the brain, they have the mechanism to do whatever with their body part. Even in some cases, it has been seen that you know, most of the portion of their brain was cut out, but is just within a month, it is like done as it is, just like the new brain. Yeah, they got it back. And this entire thing, I think, gave them a different form of living, which we cannot even think of. And you know what? Even there are with that mostly, and you know, they don't have any regenerative genes actually. They just make their genes work in a different form rather than the other animal. And mostly there are many phenomenons happens, but mostly two of the common thing or two of the important thing which happens is the macro phase of it. Like we get some swelling part, and then it starts reducing after the ointment or after medication. So that thing is that thing works really good. And another thing is the transforming growth factor beta. That's a protein. These two actually helps or trigger this phenomenon into a perfect new limb or new brain. But with that, so imagine how extraordinary animal this is. But unfortunately, they are declining towards extinction. within last 2 decades, it says that its number has went down from 6,000 to 1,000, maybe less than that, into the wild. If you see this area, it used to be their home, but right now they are left only in this place called Lake Xochimilco. Xochimilco, yeah. So apart from this area, they are just vanished from that whole area where they used to be. It's just because pollution, anthropogenic factors, and fragmentation of the habitat. And so there are more axolotl in the labs and in the pet trade rather than which is there in the wild. And it's also called the white mice of amphibian because it's so common in the pet trade and in the lab. But you cannot release them into that place because it doesn't make any sense, because the water quality and everything would remain same and they would die. Number one. Second thing is, in the lab, there are very much genetical mutations and everything has happened. So the wild genes, it's difficult. The scientists are trying to relocate them into a new home where they are preserving the wild genes and they are releasing the axolotl over there. And I hope soon we will be able to get to see this animal in abundance. And of course, I hope by that time, Payal, you and me visit there to see this amazing creature. What do you say?
For sure, Arpita. I mean, what an amazing creature. Not only does it look extremely cute, but also what a cute superhero. This is the cutest superhero of our presentation, I think. And really sad to hear that it's gone down to such low numbers. I mean, I was just looking at your graph here, and it's really sad. And yeah, I just hope they bounce back, and I hope their superpowers help them to bounce back. I guess they will, so long as they get clean water, it sounds like, isn't it? Great. What a wonderful story. Anyway, from this part of the US, Arpita, we are now going to go to another part of North America, where we are going to meet our next superhero. So we are here now in northern USA and parts of Canada, even Alaska, going almost close to the Arctic Circle in the boreal and the coniferous forests of this area. Over here lives a creature that is not as endangered as the axolotl yet, thankfully, and it is called the wood frog. And the wood frog, I think we should call it, no, the snowman is not the good word actually, maybe it should be Iceman. But anyway, we'll tell you how. I won't be surprised if many people in our audience, Arpita, today are already familiar with this. But anyway, we'll go ahead and study it a little bit. So the boreal forest doesn't look as green and lovely for most of the year, right? It also goes through a very severe winter when it is covered in snow. It's really dry and very, very cold. It's way below freezing temperatures. Many creatures that live in these forests have adopted various ways of survival. Some migrate south to long distances. Some hibernate in warm places. Some, like large mammals or small mammals, they develop the winter coat with really large fur to help them survive through this really severe winters. However, our Iceman, wood frog, has devised a completely different method of coping with this cold. And what the frog does is unheard of, unbelievable. And that is that this frog becomes like this. It actually freezes. It becomes a froxicle, right? To an extent where you see this white eye, the eye has gone white. Look at this, if you compare the two. Yeah.
Yep.
It's because the lens is frozen. And not only that, it is so frozen that the heart has completely stopped. The lungs are almost zero activity, and so are all the other organs, including the brain. If clinically tested, it would be called clinically dead, right? But this is just a dormant stage that this frog is into. It is unbelievable because any other creature that freezes like this cannot survive, because that is impossible, right? There would be so much cell damage. Every cell of your body would be dead, right? But this frog produces its own antifreeze within itself, within its body. And to do that, it produces glucose, its liver, just before winter sets in, just as it starts feeling the cold temperatures, the liver starts producing excessive glucose. And the glucose is pumped into the bloodstream, into all the cells. And also, it produces large amount of urea. The combination of excessive glucose and urea in its system ensures that even though everything is frozen at the cellular level, the cell doesn't get dehydrated or damaged at all. It can stay in this frozen state, believe it or not, for almost the entire 6 to 8 months, depending on where it is, because winters can be longer as you go north. And just towards the end of winter, as winter is going, so late winter, early spring, just as the temperature are about to change, the frog, this froxicle, starts thawing. It slowly thaws from the inside out, and soon, literally within a few days, it springs back to life 100%. This is the amazing power that this frog has. Otherwise, you know, Arpita, you are best at it. Amphibians and reptiles don't survive. They are in very low numbers as you go to extreme temperature, extreme conditions, right? But this one has figured it all out. Now, one would wonder why. Like, what is the advantage, okay, in going through all this? Why not just like other frogs or reptiles go underground, or, you know, find a cave or migrate? Why not? So the advantage is that just as the winter is going and the water starts melting, it forms little pools of water purely out of precipitation. Okay, these are inland pools which are called vernal pools or spring pools. At this time, it is still so cold that no other predators, no other creatures have come out of their hibernation or have returned from their migrations. So this time, the wood frog gets a great opportunity to be the early bird, though it's not a bird, to be the early frog, and to breed quickly and leave lots of eggs here for their tadpoles to develop and everything before these little pools dry up in midsummer. So it sort of rushes through its life cycle so that it gets an amazing long relaxed summer after that, where it just gets out of these pools, goes back into the woods and lives there for the rest of the summer before, of course, again winter sets in and it freezes all over again, and the whole story continues. What a cool animal this is.
What a cool animal, and what a clever move to take the advantage, right? Of course, but Payal, when you say that they take the advantage, I think my next animal, I think nature has given it the most important or the best advantage it can have, is the immortal jellyfish. Why? So if you go to the next slide, so I'll just say the most of the life cycle of the jellyfish are like The egg and the sperm would be released in the open water to be fertilized. And after the fertilization, when the larva comes out, they freely swim in the water with the current, unless and until they get some hard surface to stuck on. And after this hard surface, when they get stuck, they actually form a blob-like cyst, and which develops into a polyp. And this polyp develops into a branch, or like it's popped up, and it actually brings the young jellyfish, which is called medusa. So this is how the normal life, like you and me, Payal. It's a very normal life for us. Okay, wake up and sleep. But here comes the immortal jellyfish. They are different, and they made everything different. But before that, thanks to all the researchers and scientists, they have found this little one, which is only the size of your fingernail. Little fingernail, not even all the finger, little fingernail size. So that is only 4.5 millimeter in size. So it was discovered in 1883. I mean, 100 years back when I was born. Wow. So, hello?
Yes, Arpita.
Oh, sorry. You got frozen. So I thought that, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so that was that small. And in 1883, it was first discovered by a group of scientists. Once it is discovered, it was fine. It's written Turnitopsis, Torni, fine. But later, two just give me a moment. Hello?
Yeah, Arpita.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Please continue.
Okay, no, some dialog box are coming on my screen. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
It's raining here, so maybe that's the reason why I'm getting some hiccups. I'm so sorry. So what has happened? These two scientists, I mean, after 100 years, imagine, while they were doing this research and stuff, they collected the polyp of the Turnitopsis, I mean, this jellyfish. And that is Christian and Soma. They are molecular biologists. So they have collected, they have kept them into the jar, and they waiting that, okay, the medusa would come out. And because medusa are small, they are like little ones, they thought that we will wait until they get mature and start spawning. After a few days, when they next check the bottle, they open, thinking that now we will see the matured one, which will spawn and we will get many. What they found, Payal, the jellyfish had gone back to the polyp stage. They were all polyps which were settling down at the bottom of the jar. So that was the eureka moment for the students. Imagine, that time they were researchers. Okay, they thought, where is the medusa? So they start observing it for several times, different times, and they found out that whenever the medusa or the mature jellyfish is getting disturbed or stressed, they are retracting their tentacles, and because they are losing the efficiency of swimming, and they are actually settling at the bottom of the jar into their polyp formation. And imagine, from there, they start a new life with a complete different body. And only one thing which this Turritopsis actually comes out is a branch before it forms the medusa. So from the polyp, it forms a branch like this, and it's like a plant, flowering plant, with a lot of buds. And when the flower means the medusa is coming out. And they all are genetically identical. And whenever they are facing, oh gosh, this is so cold, or I have been eaten by the predator, let's go back to the polyp stage again, starting the life from there. Imagine, we have heard about metamorphosis of the frog, like the tadpole, how it comes. Imagine the frog is not feeling like, even for your wood frog, imagine if it would have done that, it's so cold, let me get that to the deep down in the bottom of the water, let's get back to the tadpole stage. So they actually do that. And this whole, can you go to the next slide? This whole phenomenon is called the transdifferentiation, which is extremely rare. So what happens is, so this medusa cells and the polyp cells are very different from each other. But during this transdifferentiation, the medusa specialized cell become the specialized polyp cell, and allowing the jellyfish to grow themselves into an entirely different body. So they are immortal. I mean, imagine, just go to the next slide. So, and few, like there are several genes which are working on, and of course scientists are still researching on, but none of those genes are not for to give them a immortal life. It's just for the rejuvenation. I only get rejuvenated after like exhausting month of work is a deep tissue massage. That is my capability of getting me rejuvenated. But for them, the entire life is changed. Go back to the childhood. Okay, parents are taking care of you. Oh my God, I'm so out of stress, Payal. Trust me, if that happens. But this is how extraordinary this creature is. Imagine.
It's amazing. It's mind blowing that it can just go back to its youthful form, if I may say. It's like going back in time without going back in time.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm not feeling well now. Let's become a child again. But the rest of the world just continues as is.
So true.
Wow, how cool is that? It's amazing. So I guess they would only die if they get eaten up, I guess.
Yes, only if they have been predated. That is the only time.
Completely predated, like, yeah.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, life goes on.
Oh my God, that's so fascinating. That's so fascinating. Wow. Anyway, after this one, Arpita, I'm going to bring you back on land, bring all of you back onto land to meet our um, next superhero, something again many of you may be familiar with. So here we have the dung beetles, and I think we should call them master navigators, maybe. I think that might be a good word for them, right? Or master astronomers. I don't know. I don't know what to call them. But anyway, yeah, we'll think of. Sorry?
Cosmologist on land.
Cosmologist. Master cosmologist. Oh,
Yes.
wow. Yeah. Cosmoman. Yeah, that's a new nickname for dung beetles, and we'll tell you just right away why.
Yeah.
So dung beetles get their name, as many of you may know, because they actually feed on dung. In the world right now, we have over 6,000 species of dung beetles. However, only out of this 6,000, only maybe 10% out of this are the ones who actually roll a ball of dung. The other 90%, many of which we may not even ever see, because when there is a pile of dung, when they sense a pile of dung, they come visit it. As soon as they come to it, they get into it and they build a nest right underneath it in the soil, underground, under the pile of dung. So they take the dung they need and they just sort of drop down into the earth's crust. However, the dung beetles that we are going to talk about now, and the ones we usually see, are the ones that roll balls of dung and take them away from the original dung pile, and sometimes a large distance away, and build a nest and go to a place where they can, burrow and build a nice nest for the next generation. Now, Why do they need, why did 10% of these species actually develop this thing, right, of moving away? Scientists think that it could be because of severe competition, right? At a pile of dung, even though dung is something that's waste for one animal, and we may look at it like yuck and all that, but for some creatures, it is gold, right? It is a means, it's food, it's means of survival. And there can be, believe it or not, severe competition at a single dung pile. And scientists believe that it is this competition that may have led certain species of dung beetle to actually evolve this behavior of making a neat little ball of dung and roll it away, right? Now, if that is the reason, the best way to move away, the fastest way to move away from something is to go in the as straight a line as possible, right? The straightest line is the shortest distance, other than zigzags or spirals. Just imagine that, right? Now, one would say, so what's the big deal? Yeah, so walk straight, go away from there, right? But Arpita, if I tell you, you have to walk straight, upside down on a handstand, and in a reverse direction, I don't think you'll think it's easy anymore, right? It would be very, very difficult. And believe me, I mean, this I'm just kidding, but if you are in an open desert with no landmarks, it can be quite difficult to move in a straight line. It is known that people tend to go in circles, round and round, right? So how do these navigate? And this was the big question. How do they get their first straight line? And believe me, these dung beetles are so focused and so adhered to wanting to go in the straight line that come what may, stones, rocks, bushes, they will stick to their straight path somehow, right? Even if they go off path, even if they fall down and their direction changes, they are able to reorient. So scientists decided to find out how this is happening. And to start with, they took one of the African scarab beetles, the Satyrus species, which is a nocturnal beetle, and they did a few experiments with it where they would put it in a controlled situation and put it in the center with a ball of dung and see how it goes. And it, on a nice starry sky, it made nice, straight, decent lines to move away in all radial directions, right, away from the center. But when, to prove the other side, they made a cardboard cap for the beetle and they stuck it on its head, right, so that the beetle could not see the sky anymore. And then it was a mess. This beetle was going round and round and round and so spiral, and it took so long to move away from the central area of the dung pile. This proved that it was looking at the sky, right? And somehow the night sky, the starry night sky, was helping it navigate in a straight line away from the dung pile. Then they went ahead and repeated the same experiment in the planetarium in Johannesburg. Because this was a perfect area where scientists could actually control the sky, right? And try different permutation, combination, dullness, dimness, clouds, this, that, and everything else. And the conclusion they came to that yes, it is the starry sky, but it's not like us where we look at the sky and look at constellations and things like that. The eyes of the beetle will work very differently. And they actually solely depended on the Milky Way. Now, the orientation of the Milky Way and the light that comes through that is what the beetles were using, the nocturnal beetles at least, to navigate in straight lines away from the dung using this light. How amazing is that, Arpita?
It's not only amazing while you were narrating this, describing this, I just suddenly felt, shit, man, how insignificant we are. Sorry for the language, but seriously, I mean, yeah. we can sometimes we are like blind. Even there are like some little lights are there. We have to put flashlights, and these little ones, actually going with the Milky Way direction, and they are just moving. They are just moving on their way where they want to go. This is incredible, no doubt.
Very rightly said, because you said this tiny one. Because the brain of this beetle is the size of a grain of rice.
True.
That is what makes it even more fascinating, because humans were known to navigate using this. Of course, we've lost the connection now. I don't know how many can navigate anymore looking at the starry sky. But this little creature can do it. Now, not only that, the eyes of the beetles, now for that, the new experiment, they took a crepuscular beetle, okay, which crepuscular meaning active at dawn and dusk, where you don't have the night sky really, right? The eyes of these beetles are able to see polarized light. So when the sun is setting, what we can't see is that the sky above us is full of polarized light in different planes. A human eye cannot see that, but this tiny creature with its tiny 4 eyes can see polarized light, and it is able to recognize different planes of polarized light and follow that for its linear navigation. Now, this is crepuscular. We already saw nocturnal. And as one would imagine, it would be no rocket science for any of you to imagine that the diurnal dung beetles are using the sun, right? Now comes the fascinating part. Okay, this is already fascinating. But how is it doing this? The beetle, believe it or not, does a little dance. So every time it's rolling the ball of dung, either it's nocturnal, crepuscular, or diurnal, and say it stumbles on a rock, or it falls off a, or it hits against a bush and falls down and it has to reorient, each time the dung beetle does a little dance. Let me show you the dance. It gets on top, goes round and round, pauses each time, and does this little dance before it goes back and starts rolling its dung in the reverse direction again. Now, what it is doing here is that each time you saw it move and stop, it was taking a mental snapshot of the sky around it. It is taking a photograph in its head and realigning its entire self and continuing in the direction that it had lost. That is how amazing these little creatures are. So, whatever condition it is able to move. Now, what happens if sometimes there is a cloud or the sun is right overhead and is not really showing any direction? Scientists have very recently proved that in many other conditions, these creatures are able to navigate even with their knowledge of wind speed and wind direction. Just see how aware this little creature is of its surroundings, be it the sun, be it the moon, be it the stars, be it the wind. And just with its amazing awareness, it has the superpower of being the cosmologist, the super Mr. Cosmos, or whatever we are going to call it.
Cosmo man. But trust me,
That's
now I look into a dung beetle in a complete different perspective. I mean, hats off. True. I mean, I definitely love beetles. But now after, yeah, I knew that with the light formation and they follow, but with this variations, that's amazing. But with that, Payal, from land, I'll take everyone and you to the water, back to the water again, which is the progressive transformer. You know that we have this all this like all gender thing is all around. Like, okay, this is dimorphic and all. Only we will say when it's a male or a female thing. But this fish do something really, really different. So clownfish I'm going to talk about. There are near about 30 species of clownfish, and in different species, they live up to 30 years. That's pretty good. And with that, clownfish actually do something extraordinary. First of all, in clownfish, the female are the boss. She protects the territory, she chooses the nest, and she, keeps the other like clownfish or other like smaller predators or somebody out of that sea anemones. Okay, so they kind of, when they make a pair, they are monogamous style. It's known. So they would be in one nesting area, and it's, if you go to the next slide, the male actually cleans up the area where the female would lay the egg. She will only lay the egg and then she will move from there. The male will take care of the egg, even protect the egg until they are hatched. Yeah. So with that, but then something happens. If anything happens to the female, the male actually change into a female to take her position. Imagine, it's just like their natural history time that changing the sex. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that what happens when the dominant female moves out or predated by something, then the dominant male will take her place, and the subordinates one will take the place, one of the subordinate will take the dominant male place. But then what exactly happens? There is an experiment what has been done, like two male clownfish have been set in an aquarium, and after few weeks, it has been found that one particular one was started growing bigger, even like double or the triple the size of the other one. So exactly that was the female when scientists find out. And how it happens is, so our gonads progress or process is controlled by a preoptic area in a brain. If you go to the next slide, I'll just go quickly because I think we have already crossed our time. So this is the brain of the clownfish. This is the male clownfish brain with, huge number of neurons, but smaller in size. They also have greater number of neurons, but mid-size. And this is the transitional male. So the transitional male brain is more close to the female than the male. Next slide, please. And over there, it didn't stay here. For a clownfish, they have both like the testicular and the ovarian tissue. Imagine when it's the time when the social structure demands that there should be a female, the brain encourages those tissue to develop or to replace. So what happens is the testicles shrinks down and the ovaries develop. So it all happens from the brain, from the brain to the pituitary gland, from the thyroid to pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland give information to the gonads, hey, it's time to change. And then they realize that, okay, they start developing into the female. But you know what, Payal? They will grow bigger in size. They will have a brain of a female. But if it is not necessary at that point of a time, their gonads will be of a male. Imagine a fish holding these two characteristics at one certain point. And it takes almost 6 months to change completely into male whenever they need it. Okay, and with that, I believe Finding Nemo. Nemo's father most probably was a female, or it's just with the male gonads. Yeah, because it was dominating, it was like looking for it. It has that aggression to look around, which actually a clownfish female possess this characteristic. So maybe it gonads were of a male because it wasn't necessary to lay eggs at that point of time or to mate, but Nemo was with a mother, father together. How incredible that is.
Wow, that's a fantastic finale story. What an amazing superhero this goldfish, the clownfish is, sorry. It's amazing. I don't know, Arpita, I'm just thinking in this today's world right now, when we are faced with with the climate crisis, I really wish a lot of these superpowers that some of these creatures have, where we are struggling with sex ratios in reptiles like the crocodiles, and maybe they can get the superpower of the clownfish. We are struggling with temperature differences. Maybe some creatures can get the superpower of the wood frog. Like, I don't know, I hope these superpowers, if they could become more
Distribute
widespread,
all of them.
yeah, wherever required,
Yeah,
maybe that's the final. It's like the final superpower we need is that they can share superpowers. And
it's true.
wouldn't it be so amazing to sort of, I don't know, it's just imagination. But
Yes.
anyway, with that, I think we end the session, and we hope all of you enjoyed it. And we certainly enjoyed learning about it, and we are open to questions.
All right, thank you both. So let's jump right into the questions. So what part of the world do we find the mimic octopuses in?
The mimic octopuses are found in a wide area of the coast in the Indo-Pacific. So there have been records from coasts of India, Indonesian islands, as well as from the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. There are many people who go out, hobbyists, scuba divers, who actually go out looking for, this is one of the sought after species for divers. It's not common though, it's quite rare to find one.
Got it. So can you tell us how long it takes for the regeneration of salamander limbs to be complete? And is there any research involving this regeneration and with humanity?
Oh yes, it has been seen. So it actually, there are several research has been done, and they have observed from 11 to 15 days they have taken to regenerate the limb. For brain, it take near about a month, and gradually, when with the same amputation happened on the same limb, then slowly the time, I mean the taken time was little longer, but within a month they are with their new part of their body, the identical part of their body.
Do you know if there's any medical research that is being done to help
Human.
to help with human, yeah, to help humanity?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the thing has happened that scientists are still searching for, because especially during amputation, suppose any accident is taking place, but the gene, first of all, that's an amphibian. But it is an invertebrate, and we have this regeneration gene, or we have this regeneration process, because imagine our fingernails, they keep on growing, even the hair keep on growing, though they but when we are in the embryo stage, it says that if something happens to our body, generally it gets repaired very quickly. So people are trying to get both the genes working together so that we can prevent this, but till date we don't have a perfect solution which can be applied for any medical treatment.
Great, thank you for addressing that. So how long do the axolotls live, and are they threatened by illegal pet trade?
Oh yes, first of all, they live near about 60 years on an average. And of course, they're in a huge threat for illegal pet trade, because they are so adorable, though cute. That's the reason why they are called the white mice, or they are very fond. I mean, they are all around the world. I mean, Mexico is the place, their origin, but they are found around the world. They are the most traded amphibian in the world, just because of pet trade.
Wow, Thanks for addressing that too. Unfortunately, that's going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you two for any closing comments you may have for us.
Thank you so much. Like every day, all because the presence of all of you, I think we get so much excited to learn new things and to present in front of you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Payal.
Same. Likewise, thank you everyone. And I'm really just, Arpita, I also want to take this moment to thank these amazing scientists who are putting all this work out there that people like you and me can study and present to all of you. So yeah, huge gratitude and wish you all a lovely day ahead.
Yeah, same to goes to you with you, Rob, as well. Have a great day.
Yes, and thank you, Rob.
Thank you both for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you're interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at the number on your screen or send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.